it's Linda Fox. I'm Senior Reporter with Phocuswire, and I am here with Christine Wang, and she's Managing Director of the Lufthansa Innovation Hub. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just talk about a little bit about the current landscape for startups, because obviously in the US you've got all these big investors coming out with their letters saying to tighten the belts, cost cut now, recession is looming. What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we see quite a lot of later stage investments coming into the market. And I think that's just a reflection of the conservatism that we generally feel within the startup ecosystem, that a lot of VCs are very mindful to really invest into companies with proven product market fit. I think on the startup side, we see that a lot of startups now are kind of like buckling and looking at product profitability over growth. I think that's like the general sense. I think for us personally, or for LIH, we do see an opportunity to go in with more of a corporate VC game, simply because I think as having Lufthansa Group as a backer, we do have assets that we obviously can help startups with, when it comes to like access to customers, when it comes to like partnerships, etc. So for us, it's actually quite an interesting time to really start helping startup a bit more.
Yeah, and I know that one of your centers is in Asia, and somebody said on stage earlier today that the kind of money that was sort of floating around, 2 years ago just isn't there anymore. Would you kind of agree with that?
You mean in Asia?
Yeah.
So I think we've seen quite a bit of money coming out of China, just because China, the environment is a little bit complicated at this point in time, and flowing into Southeast Asia and India. That's sort of like what we see in terms of the market dynamic. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of Lufthansa Innovation Hub itself, one of the things that airlines are beginning to do, or we're seeing them begin to do, is diversify their services a little bit. Now, obviously, you've got AirAsia and the super app side of things and logistics. And, Lufthansa itself has got the new partnership with Meetings Bookers. So just talk me through the kind of thinking behind all of that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, actually, because I just got out of a panel where we talked about technology. But I think the essence in the room was really to think from a traveler perspective. And I think that's what really happened over the last 2 years, where digital acceleration really dominated sort of like our day-to-day life. So we are actually encountered with the empowered traveler, and the empowered traveler now comes up with a lot of new travel use cases. So for example, one trend that we're looking at right now is blur travel, where we see that a lot of companies or travelers are looking into digital nomading. So they find new destinations or a nice destination to work from. Remote work is a big topic. We see, on some entrepreneurial websites that job postings for remote work has grown 150%.
Right.
So one thing that we have actually built is called Global Spaces, and it's really combining traveling and the need for co-working spaces or meeting spaces. So just imagine we're here in Amsterdam now. Maybe you need to take a work call, or you want to, meet someone more in private. It's a value proposition where on the platform you can actually book a co-working space, but you don't have to have a membership of that co-working space. Book a meeting room for an hour or so, and then you can have the meeting in private. So that's kind of the value proposition here.
So it's kind of add-on services that you as a traveler, could be leisure, could be business, could be combined, might suddenly need that you could access through your airline.
Sorry?
Add-on services that you as a traveler would need, and it could be business and it could be leisure that you could access.
Yeah, so we come more from a market perspective, where we look at, how are the travel behaviors are changing, and what are people demanding or asking for. And so we see this kind of need that, a lot of people are now digital nomading around the world, and therefore need space to work for.
Okay. What other opportunities are you seeing from the perspective of changing consumer behavior?
So another trend that we just discussed in the panel, for example, is the whole notion of around live streaming. And I think that's a trend we may have actually discussed earlier. We see that quite a bit in China, especially. Live streaming, I think Trip.com did a big live streaming gig, and it was actually quite successful. And I think now this is now coming a little bit more into the Western world, whereby, Instagram, TikTok are the platforms, where the younger generations are, B, where travel inspiration actually comes, but then also now more and more you have features to actually also book. So we see a lot of travel influencers now going onto that bandwagon. So not only just inspiring people, but also letting them book different destinations and accommodation packages.
And how does that fit in with kind of the overall, Lufthansa group strategy? But where's the use case there?
So I think in general, customer centricity is very important. And so obviously the question is always like, who owns the touch points? How do you collaborate with different new channels, for example? So I believe, live streaming and also what we call ubiquitous travel. So the really collaborating with the influencers, with different travelers to promote traveling, to promote destinations, and to really promote traveling as a whole is something that is quite interesting, that we look at from an innovation point of view and from a new user behavior trend.
And presumably that could help with reach as well, couldn't it? Can it help with an airline brand reach?
Yeah, so we see this as a inspirational search point of view. And I think some of the surveys that are out there already say that about 80% of people actually do make decisions based on these recommendations from different travelers, influencers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what areas kind of outside the hub are you sort of seeing kind of areas of innovation? Where are the sort of hotspots right now?
I think, having attended another conference 2 weeks ago, I thought it was very surprising that the industry is very much talking about metaverse and NFTs and blockchain.
Yeah.
And it seems to be like this a new kid on the block, kind of like, okay, what can we do with it? And can we be actually earlier in the game rather than later? Mm-hmm. And I think that's quite interesting. So that's something that we also explore more on the NFT side and more to understand how can we actually create new loyalty through NFTs, a little bit more gamified, a little bit more towards, future younger generations of travelers.
Yeah. Okay, because they're the ones that are obviously getting into it in terms of the art side of things as well. So
exactly
interesting going forward. Are there other trends? You have a perspective across Europe, Asia Pacific. Are you seeing other sort of perhaps geographic trends?
That's a good question. I think I would like to couple it a little bit with the opening of travel, right? So I think over the last 2 years, it's been just very difficult. I think we were very hopeful that Asia would be ahead of the curve. Then obviously with different regulations, it became behind of the curve. I think we're still waiting for China to open up a little bit more. So I think on that side, it's right now, it feels like it's more about getting the basics right again before even like talking about new innovation coming out. I think in general, the trends still persist in the Asian markets when it comes to like social e-commerce, when it comes to like, live streaming and consumption of digital content. I think that's something that's very much prevalent still within the Asian markets. It just depends a little bit on like how we see, travel really coming back. And I think now we're really talking more about the basics of getting the disruptions.
Yeah, literally, as you said, the basics right. Yeah, get people on the planes and get them to the destinations more or less on time. Super App, I'm always interested in Super App because, clearly it's still very much concentrated in Asia and people, this side talk about it. Uber is talking about it. But culturally, I'm not sure. I must say I'm on the fence about it. What do you think? Do you think it's a...
So I think it depends on the digital behavior that you see. And I think, super apps, the whole concept is about like putting a lot of different features and verticals into one space. It could be an app. It could be, maybe in China, it's more on WeChat. So it's a social platform, right? It works in certain countries because you only have this much of an attention span. Mm-hmm. And so you're trying to keep people within the universe.
In a sort of ecosystem.
And so the question for me is not, is more like in the West, do we see that kind of digital behavior and that pattern? And I think for that, there are some companies now trying and toying it around. So I think I think Apple was trying to like put some of these features into their different ecosystem, but I haven't seen it like really like be adopted fully. So could be just a matter of time. I think, Instagram now going into a bit of that social commerce, trying to combine that is already like one push towards it. Yeah. But I think we're very much at the beginning of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. What for you right now, what do you find, what excites you about the travel landscape and the potential for innovation? And
to be very honest, again, coming back to the basics, I'm just really glad that we can now come back together face to face, right? And I think this already like makes me really happy. I would say that I would love to see more on, you know, kind of like, I don't want to say metaverse, but more like, you know, virtual reality. Like what are some of the applications we can still do there? I think the technology has been around for quite a bit of time, and it would be really fantastic to see maybe computer visioning on the operational front could be interesting, like
digital twin type stuff.
Yes, exactly. So I think there's quite a bit of room on that one. And yeah, I think for the summer, just getting the operations sorted, I think is one of the biggest
kind of crucial, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just a final thing: are there any gaps? Is there anything that you think, you know, why isn't that being developed? Why are we not going after that? You know.
Yeah, I think what comes to my mind is I was actually hiking somewhere in Dublin, and I was just wondering why nobody would actually build on top of Google Maps more. You know, I think there are so many, you know, we were looking for attractions, we were looking for different things to do. And then you would always switch back and forth between Google Maps and like whatever content side. And so in my view, I was like, okay, why can we not find data layers and lay it on top and have like more value propositions around that? Because I think Google Maps or maps in general could be a centralized platform where you could develop super app features, right?
That's an obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think that's something that just pops up in my mind when I think
Google
about
being
it.
Google, they probably will. Christine, thanks very much. Great talking to you.
Thank you so much.